In the quiet suburbs of Littleton, Colorado, where picket fences line the streets and neighbors greet each other with warm smiles, a dark secret was about to shatter the illusion of perfection. This is the story of Richard Engelbert, a man whose life seemed to embody the American dream, but whose brutal murder would expose a web of lies, betrayal, and hidden desires that lurked beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic community. Richard Engelbert, 48, was a successful real estate agent known for his charming demeanor and his sleek black car with the license plate Sexy Realtor. To his clients and neighbors, he was the epitome of success, a loving husband to Wendy, a school principal, and a devoted stepfather to Harrison. Richard was often seen working in his well-manicured yard, greeting passers-by with a friendly wave, sponsoring local Little League teams, and attending church every Sunday. By all accounts, he was living the American dream. But dreams can quickly turn into nightmares, and Richard's carefully constructed life was about to crumble. On June 27, 2014, Wendy Engelbert returned home early from work, looking forward to a quiet evening. As she entered their house on Bleak Street, everything seemed normal at first. She called out for Richard but received no answer. An uneasy feeling crept over her as she made her way to the basement, where Richard often worked on his real estate files. What Wendy discovered in that basement would forever change her life and shock the entire community. Richard's lifeless body lay on the floor, surrounded by signs of a violent struggle. Blood stained the carpet and furniture, and Richard's face was bruised and battered. A luxury men's belt was wrapped tightly around his neck, the murder weapon used to choke the life out of him. In a state of shock and disbelief, Wendy called 911. Her neighbor, Lubby Johnson, heard the commotion and came to offer support. As police sirens wailed in the distance, news of the gruesome discovery spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. The quiet streets of Littleton were soon filled with curious onlookers and concerned neighbors, all wondering who could have committed such a horrific act in their peaceful community. Detective James Cattle, a seasoned investigator known for his meticulous approach, led the investigation. As he surveyed the crime scene, his sharp eyes took in every detail: the overturned furniture, the blood spatter patterns, and the positioning of Richard's body all told a story, one of a violent struggle and a killer filled with rage. The police began their investigation by collecting evidence and interviewing potential witnesses. They photographed the scene, carefully bagged the murder weapon, and searched for fingerprints and DNA samples. Forensic experts used luminol to detect blood traces and combed the area for hair fibers and other potential clues. As the investigation progressed, Detective Cattle and his team started to uncover the hidden layers of Richard Engelbert's life. They discovered suspicious messages and calls on Richard's phone, suggesting that he had been meeting various men for illicit sexual encounters. This revelation added a new dimension to the case, pointing to potential motives related to Richard's secret life. The first suspect to be questioned was Wendy Engelbert. As Richard's wife, she was naturally a person of interest. During her interview, Wendy appeared exhausted and distraught, but remained composed. She recounted her day at work and the horrifying moment she discovered Richard's body. When confronted with the revelations about Richard's affairs, Wendy expressed disbelief and anger, insisting she had no idea about her husband's secret life. Wendy's alibi was solid. She had been at school all day, confirmed by colleagues and security footage. However, the detectives couldn't ignore the potential motive. Richard's affairs threatened Wendy's reputation and career, both of which were crucial to her. Despite this, Wendy maintained her innocence throughout the questioning, cooperating fully with the investigation. The next person of interest was Harrison Engelbert, Richard's 21-year-old stepson. Harrison's troubled past, including struggles with substance abuse and emotional issues, made him a prime suspect. When brought in for questioning, Harrison appeared nervous but willing to cooperate. In a shocking twist, Harrison admitted to having been in a secret sexual relationship with Richard for the past 2 years. He described feeling conflicted and manipulated, struggling with the deceit and secrecy. Harrison revealed that he had recently ended the affair after discovering Richard's infidelity with numerous other men. Despite the motive this revelation provided, Harrison claimed he had been bartending on the night of the murder, an alibi confirmed by several witnesses. The police examined Harrison's electronic devices and social media accounts, finding messages that showed tension between him and Richard, but nothing directly implicating him in the murder. As the investigation continued, another suspect emerged, Alexa Hernandez, a 30-year-old waitress with a fiery temper and a history with Richard. Alexa had once caught Richard having sex with her husband in a house they were touring, leading to the end of her marriage. Known for her confrontations with Richard since the incident, Alexa's anger made her a person of interest. During questioning, Alexa admitted to despising Richard for ruining her marriage, but insisted she had moved on. She provided a solid alibi, confirmed by her co-workers at the diner, where she had been working a double shift on the day of the murder. Despite her obvious disdain for Richard, Alexa showed no signs of guilt or deception during the interrogation. As days turned into weeks, the investigation seemed to hit a dead end. The police had 3 suspects, each with a potential motive, but no concrete evidence linking any of them to the crime. The community grew restless, demanding answers and justice for Richard Engelbert. Then on July 3, 2014, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. While re-examining items from the crime scene, forensic experts discovered a small hidden camera disguised as a smoke detector in Richard's basement. This discovery would blow the case wide open and reveal the shocking truth behind Richard Engelbert's murder. The camera had been recording the basement's activities for weeks, capturing Richard's secret meetings and interactions. As Detective Cattle and his team reviewed the footage, they made a chilling discovery, a recording from the day of the murder. The video showed a heated argument between Richard and Harrison, which quickly escalated into a physical struggle. In a fit of rage, Harrison grabbed the luxury belt from a nearby chair and used it to choke Richard. Armed with this damning evidence, Detective Cattle brought Harrison in for another round of questioning. Confronted with the video footage, Harrison's calm demeanor crumbled. In a moment of raw emotion, he confessed to the murder. Harrison explained that he had felt trapped in the relationship with Richard, manipulated by both his stepfather and his mother, Wendy. The constant deceit and Richard's infidelity had pushed him to his breaking point. In a moment of uncontrollable rage, Harrison had killed Richard to free himself from the suffocating situation. The confession and video evidence left no doubt about Harrison's guilt. On July 4, 2014, Harrison Engelbert was arrested for the murder of Richard Engelbert. The community of Littleton watched in shock as the young man was led away in handcuffs. The tragic conclusion to a case that had exposed the dark underbelly of their seemingly perfect suburban life. As news of the arrest spread, more details of the Engelbert family's dysfunction came to light. It was revealed that Wendy had known about the affair between Richard and Harrison for months. She had pressured Harrison to continue the relationship, fearing that Richard's reckless sexual behavior would ruin her chances in an upcoming election for school superintendent. The trial of Harrison Engelbert began on August 15, 2014, drawing attention from both local and national media. The courtroom was filled with family, friends, and curious onlookers, all eager to hear the sordid details of the case that had shaken their community to its core. District Attorney Laura Mitchell led the prosecution, arguing that Harrison's murder of Richard was premeditated and driven by deep-seated anger and betrayal. She presented the hidden camera footage in Harrison's confession as key evidence, emphasizing that despite the troubled and volatile relationship, Harrison was ultimately responsible for the brutal death of his stepfather. The defense, led by attorney Z. Barnes, painted a different picture. They argued that Harrison's actions were the result of intense emotional turmoil and manipulation from both Richard and Wendy. Barnes claimed that Harrison's unstable mental state and the pressure he faced made it difficult for him to control his actions, seeking a verdict of guilty, but with consideration for a lesser charge. Throughout the trial, the Engelbert family sat quietly in the courtroom, visibly distressed by the proceedings. They had been shocked by the revelations of Richard's double life and the turmoil it had caused. The emotional toll of the case was evident on their faces as they listened to the details of the affair and the murder. On September 5, 2014, after weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. Harrison Engelbert was found guilty of second-degree murder. The jury determined that while Harrison had acted in a fit of rage, the killing was not premeditated. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict was met with mixed reactions. Some felt it was just, given the emotional and psychological factors involved. Others believed it was too lenient, considering the brutality of the crime. Regardless of individual opinions, the sentencing brought a sense of closure to a case that had captivated and horrified the community for months. In the aftermath of the trial, the town of Littleton struggled to come to terms with the shocking events that had unfolded in their midst. The case had forced them to confront the reality that even in the most picture-perfect communities, dark secrets can lurk behind closed doors. Harrison Engelbert began serving his sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections. Reports from prison described him as quiet and withdrawn, focusing on completing his education through available programs and seeking counseling for his emotional issues. Behind bars, Harrison was left to grapple with the consequences of his actions and the complex emotions that had led him to that fateful day. Wendy Engelbert faced her own set of challenges in the wake of the trial. The exposure of her knowledge of the affair and her manipulative actions had a significant impact on her personal and professional life. The scandal forced her to withdraw from the race for school superintendent, a position she had been campaigning for diligently. Wendy retreated from public life, seeking therapy to cope with the emotional fallout and to address the impact of the scandal on her reputation. The Engelbert family, once the embodiment of suburban success, was left in tatters. Richard was dead, Harrison was in prison, and Wendy was disgraced. The perfect facade they had presented to the world had crumbled, revealing the dysfunction and darkness that had been festering beneath the surface. As time passed, the community of Littleton began to heal. Memorials and support events were held to honor Richard Engelbert's memory and to support those affected by the crime. The case served as a sobering reminder of the hidden struggles that can lie behind closed doors, even in the most seemingly perfect families. The story of Richard Engelbert's murder is a tragic tale of secrets, lies, and the devastating consequences of living a double life. It reminds us that appearances can be deceiving and that the weight of hidden truths can lead to unimaginable tragedy. As we reflect on this case, we're left with many questions. Could this tragedy have been prevented if Richard had been honest about his sexuality? Would things have been different if Wendy hadn't pressured Harrison to maintain the affair? And what drove Harrison to that breaking point where he felt murder was his only option? Perhaps the most chilling aspect of this case is how ordinary it all seemed on the surface. Richard Engelbert was not a hardened criminal or a notorious figure. He was a successful real estate agent, a familiar face in the community, someone you might wave to as you walked your dog or chat with at a neighborhood barbecue. His story serves as a stark reminder that sometimes the most shocking crimes can happen in the most unexpected places, committed by the people we least suspect. The legacy of the Engelbert case in Littleton is complex. While the community has moved forward, the memory of that summer in 2014 lingers. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of secrets and the importance of authenticity. It's a reminder that no matter how perfect someone's life may appear, we can never truly know what's happening behind closed doors. For the investigators who worked tirelessly to solve this case, it was a lesson in persistence and attention to detail. The hidden camera that ultimately cracked the case might never have been discovered if not for their thorough re-examination of the evidence. It's a testament to the importance of meticulous police work in uncovering the truth. As for Harrison, his story is a tragic one of a young man trapped in a web of manipulation and deceit. While his actions were undoubtedly horrific, one can't help but wonder how different things might have been if he had received the support and help he needed earlier in life. His case raises important questions about mental health, family dynamics, and the long-term effects of emotional abuse. The Engelbert case also sheds light on the pressure to maintain a perfect image in the suburban America. The lengths to which this family went to hide their troubles, from Richard's secret affairs to Wendy's political ambitions, speak to a culture that often values appearance over authenticity. It's a sobering reminder of the harm that can come from prioritizing reputation over honesty and personal well-being. As we conclude our examination of this tragic case, we're left to ponder the broader implications. How well do we really know our neighbors, our friends, or even our family members? What secrets might be hiding behind the smiling faces and picket fences of our own communities? The story of Richard Engelbert and his family serves as a stark reminder that truth, no matter how painful, is ultimately less destructive than a life built on lies. It challenges us to foster environments where people feel safe to be their authentic selves, where seeking help is encouraged rather than stigmatized. In the end, the Engelbert case is more than just a sensational true crime story. It's a cautionary tale about the human cost of deception, the dangers of suppressing one's true self, and the devastating consequences that can arise when the pressure of maintaining a perfect facade becomes too much to bear. As Littleton continues to heal and move forward, the memory of this case serves as a somber reminder of the fragility of the lives we build and the importance of compassion, understanding, and honesty in our relationships with others and ourselves. The next time you drive through a quiet suburban neighborhood with its perfectly manicured lawns and friendly waves from neighbors, remember the story of Richard Engelbert. Remember that behind every front door, there's a story, and sometimes those stories are far far more complex and troubled than we could ever imagine. The Engelbert case also raises important questions about the nature of justice in complex family situations. While Harrison was ultimately held responsible for his actions, the role that both Richard and Wendy played in creating the toxic environment that led to the murder cannot be ignored. It challenges our legal system to consider the nuances of familial manipulation and emotional abuse when determining culpability and appropriate sentencing. Moreover, this case highlights the critical need for better support systems and resources for individuals struggling with their sexuality, especially in communities where such discussions may still be taboo. Richard's decision to live a double life rather than openly acknowledge his sexual orientation speaks to the persistent stigma and fear that many LGBTQ+ individuals face, even in seemingly progressive areas. The ripple effects of the Engelbert case extended far beyond the immediate family and community. It sparked conversations about hidden abuse, the pressure of maintaining appearances, and the importance of mental health support. Local schools and community organizations in Littleton began implementing programs to address these issues, hoping to prevent similar tragedies in the future. For the legal professionals involved in the case, it presented unique challenges. The prosecution had to balance the brutality of the crime with the complex circumstances that led to it. The defense team grappled with how to present Harrison's actions in a way that acknowledged the crime, while also highlighting the years of manipulation and abuse he had endured. The media coverage of the case was intense, with national news outlets descending on Littleton to report on the salacious details of the murder and the family's hidden life. This scrutiny added another layer of stress to an already traumatized community, forcing residents to confront uncomfortable truths about the darkness that can exist behind closed doors. In the years following the trial, several books and documentaries were produced about the Engelbert case, each attempting to unravel the complex web of relationships and motivations that led to the tragic outcome. These works sparked further debate about the case and its implications for society at large. For the investigators, the case remained a defining moment in their careers. Detective Cattle, in particular, would often reflect on the Engelbert murder when training new detectives, emphasizing the importance of looking beyond surface appearances and digging deep into the hidden aspects of people's lives. As for Littleton itself, the town worked hard to move past the shadow cast by the Engelbert case. Community leaders organized events and initiatives aimed at promoting openness, acceptance, and mental health awareness. While the memory of the tragedy lingered, there was a collective effort to learn from it and create a more supportive and authentic community. The Engelbert case serves as a powerful reminder of the complexity of human nature and the devastating consequences that can arise when societal pressures, personal desires, and family dynamics collide. It challenges us to look beyond the facades we present to the world and to create spaces where honesty and authenticity are valued above perfection and appearances. As we reflect on this tragic story, we're reminded of the importance of compassion, understanding, and open communication in our relationships. Could anyone have imagined that such a nightmare was lurking behind the Engelbert's perfect facade? What other secrets might be hiding in the seemingly serene streets of Littleton? And most chilling of all, what happens when the truth finally comes out?